Hello, this is Coach Wilson, and this is Chapter 8, Section 1. Today we're going to continue talking about our government, but today we're going to move into state government. All right, our first thing we're going to talk about are reserve powers, and we talked about this a little bit in an earlier chapter, but state powers, we call those reserve powers, and those are laid out in the 10th Amendment. And essentially, those are reserved for the state, and the federal government does not have these powers or are not granted these powers. Now, state governments have the ability to conduct elections, which means they decide on the qualifications for voting. They are basically expected by the federal government to decide on specifics for the qualifications for voting that aren't specified in the U.S. Constitution. Now, they're also responsible for the police. The police are city and state employees, so they're also responsible for teachers, schools, etc., things of that nature. Marriage laws are also specific to states, even though in recent years we've seen the federal government make specific laws to encourage the states, but marriage laws are specific to each state, as well as we mentioned education, and then they also manage the highways. Okay, so we have the North Carolina DOT, and they take care of, if there's snow, if there's a hurricane or something like that's blocking a roadway. They have a lot to do with that. Doesn't mean the federal government doesn't have its own versions of these things in some ways, okay, but specifically it's the job of the North Carolina state government to deal in these areas. Now, states also have what we call state constitutions. All right, they have a preamble just like what the United States Constitution has. Okay, it also has a Bill of Rights that guarantee the rights and freedoms that are to all citizens in that particular state. Okay, it also outlines the government's organization. Duties such as the legislative, executive, and judicial branches are carefully spelled out, and so we have all of those branches in our state governments, the same as we have in our federal government. We also have rules for managing elections and other state affairs, including qualifications for citizens by the state, citizens of the state, as well as rules for conducting elections. Okay, and then we also have provisions for laws that govern essentially how we do education, building highways, regulating business, raising money for taxes, etc. The state has the ability to tax the same as the federal government. We call that a concurrent power. Okay, and if you remember, concurrent powers are powers that are shared with the federal government. So the federal government can tax, and so can the states. All right. And then finally, I don't know that I mentioned this, the methods for amending the state constitution are laid out. Essentially, they have to amend those the same as the U.S. Constitution, or the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights is amended, or the amendments to the Constitution are amended. They have to do the same thing for state constitutions. Now, how states work together? Okay, there's a full faith and credit clause by states. Essentially ensures that each state will accept the decisions of civil courts and other states, and laws that are found in the Constitution. Okay, this is part of the U.S. Constitution, and this is designed to ensure that if you have your driver's license in North Carolina and you drive to South Carolina, they understand that you have a driver's license to drive, that you are legally able to operate that motor vehicle, even though the requirements in South Carolina may be different than they are in North Carolina. Okay. They also have extradition in states. This is part of that. An extradition is essentially the idea that fugitives will be returned to the state where they committed the crime. So, for example, if you commit murder in North Carolina, you can't run to South Carolina or Georgia to receive asylum where they won't extradite you. If you are caught, they will run your record, and they will extradite you to where you're originally from. All right. Now, how states work together, continuing. State and federal governments work to assist unemployed workers, conserve resources, and build highways. These are all things that have been going on for years. Projects such as the Hoover Dam, other projects that involve trying to get workers out out of the home, that are, unemployed, out into the field, whether it be road projects or, beautification projects where they're trying to make things look better around the state. They also work to try to promote energy and, promoting just the state in general. Okay. But the federal government works with the states to do that. That is designed to, that's kind of the federal government's role with the states. All right. Is they're essentially like a parent to the states, is the best way I can explain it to you. So we're going to leave that off there. One last thing I will leave you with is the Constitution also states that the federal government must help any state put down domestic violence within its borders. Examples could be domestic violence might be rioting in a town, and so the government could call in the National Guard. And then also the federal government, state government share the cost of furnishing a number of services, including building highways, assisting the unemployed, helping people with low incomes, also providing low-cost lunches for school children, and offering job training to people with disabilities. So those are just a few things that we could talk about there. But like I said, make sure you're getting through this chapter. You can always read through your section in your textbook to make sure you're not missing any information. But make sure you're keeping up with these notes. Make sure you're keeping up your vocabulary. And please let me know if you have any questions. If not, I'll talk to you soon.